it is your time. And I think that's so important is like whether you're working or you're spending it with your family, you get to decide where you're putting your time. And just because there's emails in your inbox doesn't mean you have to stop what you're doing. One of
Yes.
the things that I love to talk about is like taking control of your digital life and organizing your digital routine, constantly posting on my stories, constantly interacting with my community, have all of my notifications turned off. I do not allow them to bombard me. When I open my
Yes.
phone, I don't want to see that because it is overwhelming. And if every single time I open my phone, there's notifications everywhere telling me, look here, look here, look here, then I don't feel as in control as if I decide where I put my time.
Hey, this is Chad Namiro,
And I'm Kelly Namiro. Welcome to the Balancing Chaos podcast,
a lifestyle podcast where we will interview guests about wellness, business, and just about everything in between.
Our goal is to help you develop a lifestyle that promotes health, wholeness, and success. Through our conversations, we hope to inspire you to live a beautiful, full, and joyful life as you navigate balancing the chaos.
We hope you enjoy. All right, Jessica is a wife, mother, blogger, podcaster, and efficiency extraordinaire who spends her days helping others bring stability into their chaotic lives with countless life hacks. Her mission is simple: utilize systems to make your busy lives easier and save time so you can spend it doing the things you love most. She has created efficiencies in all areas of our home, our phone, our careers, and our lives, and has made it her mission to share these tips with anyone and everyone that will listen. In her podcast, the Jessica Haizman podcast, she discusses everything from organization, cleaning, minimalism, mindfulness, health, fitness, productivity tips, relationships, self-care, and so much more. So without further ado, let's all learn about how to make our lives a lot easier with Jessica Haizman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being on. We're really excited to have you. I think
feel
that
like it's a good fit. Our podcast is named Balancing Chaos. And so
yes.
I think there's going to be some real world tips on how you can help us and others, balance whatever that chaos is in their lives.
I think it's so common these days, right? Like most people are living in a state and a place of overwhelm. So before we even get into like how you got into this and all of that good stuff, talk to me about like most of the people, because you have a pretty big community. Like talk to me about the people who are like sliding into your DMs and like talking to you about like, oh my gosh, I am so like overwhelmed. I have all of this stuff going on. Is there like one simple solution that you give them, or like one place where you tell them to start in terms of how to like minimize some of the busyness?
That's a really great question. So, what's really interesting about like my following is originally 3 years ago when I got started, I actually started in the wedding planning area and was sharing wedding planning tips for a very short time when I realized, okay, that's not what I'm passionate about. I don't have all the answers. And that's when I switched over to like cleaning and organizing, which I've been doing for years. And um, I got tons of usually women. 95% of my following is women who were like, how do you maintain this? And what would happen is they would like constantly, I'd either get people who are like, I want to be like you, or people who would be like, you don't have kids, you don't have pets, you don't have like all of these reasons why you're successful and I'm not. And then now that I have kids, people are like, well, how the heck are you doing this with kids? How do you maintain a clean home? Or how do you just get through your day with having kids and a dog and everything? And all of it has been like this common theme of really managing your time and staying organized. So you'll find me on Instagram and you'll see Jessica Haizman in Organized Life, because I truly do think that everything goes back to having an organized home, having an organized system, planning your days out so that it's organized. And that is usually the first place that I start people is like, okay, let's take a step back, look at your days, let's plan them. Let's use a planner or a spreadsheet, anything that works for you, a calendar, to actually plan out your time and get organized.
I love that. So are you even having people like, because what you said, like, I think that there can be chaos in so many different areas, whether it's how you're managing your time or how you're managing your home or whatever the case may be. And so are you really look at it like there's no one solution and one size fits all for people. Like if some people like the iPhone calendar, some people like a written calendar. It's just like what works for you.
Yeah, typically, I know that there's some people like you totally have the choice of doing a written calendar. But my first approach is whatever type of calendar that you're using is to block out your time.
Yeah.
I love the Google Calendar and I like to push people towards that because I just love the ability to have it with you all the time, right? Like
Yeah.
when you have a journal, sometimes you forget it at home, whatever. You can't have your husband add to it. Where like a digital calendar like Google Calendar is so easy because anyone in the family can access it. My assistant has my Google Calendar, like everybody has access to me and
Yeah.
like my availability. But then I can also use colors and different calendars to be able to truly organize that and manage my time. And like I said, it's for anybody. It can be somebody who is a student in college, or it can be a mom who's just trying to be like, I need to get through the day. I don't know how to schedule nap time. I'm not utilizing my time to the best of my ability.
Mm.
This would be the point where we go back and we time block and we get that figured out.
It's almost like having your time managed. Like what I've found for sure is like when I started managing my time more effectively, then I could manage everything else in my life more effectively. And so I think starting there is like a really, really great point that you make. Let me go back really quick before Chad jumps in. But like talking about this like idea of overwhelm, do you find that most people are overcommitted and overscheduled?
I I actually think quite the opposite. I think that most people are spending so much time doing stuff that doesn't matter, doing stuff that is taking up their time. So, like, you think of like a new mom, which is most of my following. We spend so much time on social media, so much
Yes.
time picking up toys over and over and over again, or whatever the case may be. We spend so much time doing stuff that isn't our priority. So then we're like, oh my God, I didn't get the grocery shopping done because I was doing this instead. So that's why I like backing up and like really seeing where your time is going so you know you're getting the important things done.
Yeah.
One of the things that I liked that you mentioned was like starting with time blocking. Yes, like you want to plan your appointments and those important things, but you need to look at your whole life as an important thing, whether it is having scheduling in one-on-one quality time with your husband or
Yeah.
having time to play with your babies, but also making sure you schedule in time to do laundry so that that's not something that's just getting piled on. You are instead planning it out and can get the things that are priorities done for you.
Totally. I think that like what I've learned is that I schedule in literally everything now. So whether it's 2 hours with him on a Friday morning, or it's time to do emails, or it's like whatever it is, it's in the calendar because all of that stuff takes up time. And what I love that you said the most is like getting really honest with yourself, because I think that so many people don't do that. And it's like, oh my gosh, I wasted 2 hours of my day today scrolling. And like, that's why I didn't get the laundry done, or that's why I didn't get the emails done. And it's like, okay, if I can take that and have a boundary with it, things can happen in so much more of an efficient way. And so a lot of times we don't want to look at that stuff because it requires us to get honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
But I really love that tip. I think that's great.
What's also really cool about when you're looking at where you're spending your time, you can also see like, okay, to clean the kitchen, it's a task that nobody likes doing, right? Like it's overwhelming. You don't want to clean up after a meal. But if you're looking at the time and you see, wow, it only takes me 10 minutes, there's some motivation. Like I can put on a timer, I can listen to a podcast for 10 minutes and get that done. And that's kind of like a little kick in the butt to get started because you know it's not going to take forever. And you know if you spend 10 minutes now, it's going to help you later on. One of the things that I love to talk about are like daily tasks that I do in my home. And these are like basically habits. I have a hard time saying habits because you want a habit to be totally automatic, and this does take some motivation. But they're things that I do every day, and they keep me from having to spend a ton of time. So I will spend a few minutes picking up the playroom after we're done playing in it, rather than waiting for the end of the night to have to pick up a disaster of a playroom. Or I'll clean up periodically the kitchen throughout the day, so that I'm not having to spend an hour cleaning the kitchen at night. It's 5 minutes here and there. So I love those like daily habits so that you can really utilize your time and it doesn't require as much motivation to get started.
Yeah. So I think there's two distinct type of people in the world, perhaps. Maybe there's more than that. She always, or until recently, I should say, wasn't like big on the calendar. Like I had to convince her.
I just didn't use Google Calendar.
But like to your point, and I love the sales pitch you gave, which is what I saw it as, because I was like, thank you. Someone else is reinforcing what I believe is true. Because like these days, it's just so much more helpful to have a shared calendar that's digitized, right? That way you see each other's stuff.
It totally is. And my husband had such a hard time. My husband was not an organized person before I came along. I just was talking about this the other day. Like when I moved in with him, he had a system set up, but it was like he lived out of big storage containers, and like he'd have a big purple storage container full of like his sports equipment and his clothes and his books. And I was like, oh my gosh, coming from like me, who's totally organized, I was like, this is crazy. But slowly but surely we started like building habits, and now he is like, he'll put something in the calendar before I do, and he follows our household planner to like maintain cleaning better than I do. Like he has totally got on board with it, but it's taken 6 years. But looking back, I'm like, this is awesome. I'm glad that, you know, you come around to it. But that's why earlier when you said, you know, what's the right calendar, it's hard because I know some people really do like having a planner next to them, and transferring to a new calendar can be totally like overwhelming. But if you start making changes slowly, like just start adding appointments and then start adding a little bit more, it gets easier. But the flexibility of it, the shareability of it, the customization of it, it's just so worth it. I love Google.
On a tangible note on that, like on the Google Calendar thing. So do you recommend to people that they have like a personal and then a work, and that it's color coded? Should there be any more of a breakdown than that? Like how can people use that to like the best ability so that they're really getting the most out of it?
Oh, this is like a question for my organized heart. I love that. So I break down Google Calendar as much as possible. So if you're just starting out, I definitely suggest starting with one calendar and kind of getting used to using that at first. And then once you do get used to that, add in a calendar for your kids. Each kid can have their own color, but it could be one calendar. Then add in a work calendar, then add in your husband's calendar. All of these different calendars really allow you to utilize Google Calendar to the best of its ability, because you can go on the side, you can uncheck the calendars you don't want to look at. So say you're sitting down to work for the day, you can pull up just your work calendar and see just your work and get rid of all of the other distractions that are there. And same with like your kids' calendar. You don't want to share your work calendar with your nanny, but you might want to share your kids' calendar with your nanny. So you're able to really play around with the settings and really utilize the calendar to the best of its ability if you use all of the different calendars, all of the different colors. I actually have a tutorial, and it's like one of my favorite videos on YouTube, and I show how to share your calendar and how to customize it and color code it and make it look beautiful.
Amazing. We should definitely like link that up.
I know all of this. I love what you're saying. I know how to do all of it.
Are you a Virgo? Because this is like organization.
I love it. I get that question more than any other question. And I'm actually a Pisces, but like people have dove deep into it, and they're like, well, you're a Pisces born on March 9th. So like these are your traits, and they like send them to me. And I'm like, I agree. I'm totally like, I'm the type of person that like when you go on vacation and you're with a bunch of people, I'm like, guys, you got to put like the milk here in the fridge, and you got to put this here. Like you got to be organized. This is crazy.
There's a special type of satisfaction with having a perfectly color coded Google Calendar that's shareable and everything. So
for a Virgo,
special place in my heart. Did you always were
you always like
just organized? Don't take this the wrong way. I don't think you will. But when I was reading about you, I was like, Friends happened to be on last night, and I was like, she kind of reminds me of Monica. I'm sure you've heard that.
I have.
Yeah.
I have not always been organized. My mom, so I started like sharing organizing and cleaning hacks in 2019, right after I got married. And my mom was like, what? Like you like miss like never wanted to clean her room. Like it was always a pile of clothes. Like it was high school bedroom was like complete chaos. And my mom was like, I cannot believe that you are on the internet telling people how to get clean and organized. And quite honestly, like that's exactly why I did, because my bedroom was a catastrophe. And then moving into my boyfriend, now husband's bedroom, also a catastrophe. And I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, we need to figure this out. So like my first step into getting organized was kind of a combination of like becoming an adult and saying like, okay, I'm in college, I have tons of responsibilities, I need to figure out how to keep track of all this. And that's when I started like diving into planners and the Google Calendar and stuff like that. And then on the other aspect of it, like moving into my husband's house where we had one bedroom of a friend's house. So I was going from my own bedroom to now combining with his purple plastic containers and like trying to figure out how to fit all of our stuff and really organize it so that we could use that space to the best of its ability. So yeah, it was like this combination when I was like around like 22 years old, and I was like, bam, this is the best thing that's happened to me. And I feel so in control of my life now that it's all organized.
I think like when I was reading your blogs and listening to your podcasts, like that's what I saw as like the inherent beauty of this all is really when it comes down to it, it's like, how do you add efficiency and operationalize your life so you can spend more time doing the things you actually want to do and like spend more time with your family versus it's like a really simple point, but yeah, like the difference between cleaning up a small mess after you make it versus letting 3 or 4 pile up is a big difference in time. And then all of a sudden at the end of the night, you're doing that versus like playing with your kids. And so, yeah, it seems trivial, but like, I think it really adds a lot of just capability in people's lives.
So talk to us about the organizing and like the systems that you have in place in terms of your like at home life. Before we like dive into stuff about kids and mom life, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that that's another place where a lot of moms get overwhelmed, is like, oh my God, it's not just the calendar, but like the house is a mess. And I feel like I'm constantly cleaning and I feel like I'm constantly picking stuff up. Or like if they go to bed at night, like I heard this from so many different clients, like if kids go to bed at night at 8, like then I'm up until 10 and I'm doing laundry and I'm doing dishes and I'm doing all of these things. And so how do people make that more efficient so that they're not up until the middle of the night and then burning themselves out, exhausted because they feel like they never can catch a break?
And quick tidbit, I'm going to call you out here. Like, she's the messy one. So I'm always telling her like, clean up the little messes. That way, like,
totally,
we don't have to do it all at the end. So you're speaking very directly to her.
I feel like that your situation, it's the same as my situation. I feel like every couple, it's like you bring together someone who's like, a little cleaner and someone who's not so clean. And that's usually how it works. So the other person's like, but it's so much easier to do it this way. And my husband's like, why would I do it that way? So totally get you. And I feel like a lot of people can relate with that. To manage your home, it truly is trying to figure out a system that works for you. So typically people will like that are desperate, and a new mom is that exact situation. You're like, holy crap, how do I get this all done? I have a human to take care of. And they'll go online and they'll print out a cleaning calendar that's like cleaning every single space in their home. And like, it's so flippin' overwhelming. It's unreal. Like you already have all of these new responsibilities. And now you're trying to add in this like intense cleaning calendar from somebody like me who has been doing it for years and is totally in control of their house. And that's not like the best way to start, because it's just kind of setting yourself up for failure. It's like January 1st when you're like, I'm gonna work out every day. Yeah. Like it's just not realistic.
Yeah.
So instead, I suggest using some type of customizable planner. Obviously, I have them on my website available and it's a great place to start. But there's also, you could use a piece of paper. You can use your own calendar to plan it. And what I suggest doing is taking a look at your home, writing down what needs to be done. So like when you're first starting out, it's probably going to be things like the dishes, the kitchen sink, laundry. Those things are like, they need to get done to keep the house moving. And those are things that I would work on first, making that as efficient as possible and focusing on these small tasks until they become easier, until they require less motivation. Because otherwise you're just like overwhelmed all day long trying to get all these cleaning tasks done. So focusing on like one small thing at a time, it could be as simple as making your bed every morning and letting that become a part of your routine where you wake up and make your bed and all of a sudden it's easy and it doesn't take a lot of motivation to get done. And then once you get to that point, okay, now I can add in another thing at like loading the dishwasher after a meal. And at first, it's going to be hard. It's going to really require you to push yourself to do it every single day, even when you're exhausted and your little one was up teething all night. And then eventually it will become easy and you can keep moving on. And that's when you'll get to the point where you're like, okay, now I've got a cleaning calendar that I can follow because I've got these small habits in place. Now I have, cleaning that I do every day of the week. And now I can clean my dishwasher, like now I can do those things that like I see cleaning influencers do. Because if you just try to jump into like, okay, I'm going to clean every little area of my home and I'm going to get this 100%, it's just not going to work out. And the same thing goes with like organizing. I know you mentioned that as well. If you're trying to organize your home, like printing a checklist that I offer, like I definitely have a checklist that's like every area in your home that you can organize. Instead, I would first organize your days, first organize the things you can control that are going to help maintain your home, and then kind of figure out, okay, I'm going to tackle, this closet today and that closet the next day. And just kind of take the overwhelm, take a step back and try not to do it all at once because it's not sustainable.
So it's like crawl, walk, run, really.
Yeah, I think that's like you said, it's like with anything. It's like working out or anything like that. If you do it to a place where you're trying to do it all at once, it's never going to be sustainable because you're not used to it. But if you are incorporating those small habits that you can build on, that gives you momentum and motivation to keep building the habits, because it's like, oh, this feels really good to load the dishwasher after every meal. It feels so much better than having like 75 dishes piled up in my sink, at the end of the day. So like that small thing is going to give you the momentum to like, then maybe go and, do a load of laundry every single day or whatever the case may be. So I love that. I think that it's a great tip.
It's just
for
human
everybody.
Psychology. It's small wins versus these monumental
overhauls.
Right. The motivation to get an entire checklist done is insane. Like you would need so much to do, especially when it's something new to you and you're going to do it. And you might get that first day and you might get that second day, but eventually, like, especially I keep bringing up motherhood because it is just like unlike any other experience. And you get to the point where like you didn't get sleep the night before and it is just way too exhausting to follow that list. And then all of a sudden, it gets taken off the fridge and then it gets thrown in the garbage. And then you're back to square one. So like instead of, starting at square one again and again and again and hoping for a different result, let's start at something that you can do even on the hardest days. Start so small that no matter what it is, no matter what type of day is thrown at you, you can still make your bed that day. You can still use the little ounce of motivation in you to do that until it becomes easier.
When you're like at a level like you're at with like, like you said, like your house has like all these systems and in place where now everything is organized. Like, is everything in your pantry and everything in like your closet like labeled? Like, do you have like label maker for everything? Is everything color coded? Like, how does that look?
It's quite a lovely site. Everything is organized. I just recently moved. Now it's been like 6 months, and that was like the most traumatic experience for me because as a full-time entrepreneur and a new mom, I had a 8-month-old at the time that we moved. It was like such a different experience from moving before kids. But moving before kids, I spent days, I just organized everything. It was great. I felt at home within like a week of moving in. This time, I swear it's been like 6 months and I'm just getting those systems down because I just don't have the time. I really had to like do it space by space by space. And I actually just finished organizing our pantry and now I'm like, I can breathe. Like everywhere's organized, everywhere's got a place, but the whole experience of organizing has been like a roller coaster as well. Like I've gone through, the home edit bin life where it was like every single thing was in a bin and every single thing was beautiful and labeled. And then I've also like kind of switched to something like a little bit more flexible because as we rent our house, so we're constantly changing our spaces, and putting permanent labels on everything isn't always the best option. Or even something as simple as like in the pantry, when you have like decanted jars, like, yes, you can put a label on it and it's beautiful, but then that jar is for oatmeal and that's all you can put in there. Whereas like I like the flexibility of, putting oatmeal in it and maybe pasta the next time or rice the next time,
Right.
So depending on like where we are in life. So the organization itself might not look 100% perfect, but setting up a system is the key to it, whether it's using Amazon boxes or pretty decanted jars. The organization is going to look different from person to person and house to house.
You find like that your clients are all capable of this, probably in different ways. You've mentioned a few times that you have to make it your own and do things to an extent your own way. But like I mentioned early on, I think some people are like so out there and so just non like calendar driven. Like the question is, have you worked with clients that really just are somewhat incapable of like broad organization?
No, and I think that everybody can benefit from it. I think that there's definitely different approaches to get people there.
Yeah.
Talking from experience. So I mentioned earlier, my husband was like totally not organized. And for him, it was really like breaking it down to like how it's going to benefit us. And once he kind of saw that end goal of like, okay, the fridge is organized this way because, it's going to save us money on groceries because we're not going to be wasting food. And it's going to allow us to eat healthier because we've got our like fresh fruit and vegetables right when you open the fridge. It's the first thing you see. So like kind of explaining the deeper meaning for him was key for him. But then on the total other side of it, like I was super organized and I resisted time blocking for years. I was like, no, I'm a to-do list person. And it took a long time to switch to being a time block person, but my time is now so much better used than it was before. So no matter where you are on your journey of like being organized and managing your time, I think that there's always room for growth, but change is hard. It has to be like a really deep self-reflection and like you have to actually put the effort in rather than just being like, okay, I hope this person can come into my home and solve all my problems. Like, which is what people hope when they get like a professional organizer to come in. They're like, okay, this person's going to come organize my house and it's going to be great. But if you don't put in the effort to maintain it and you don't set up those systems and you don't make the changes that are necessary to maintain a home like that, it's just going to go to crud anyways. So
yeah, we've had a few of those.
We've definitely had the professional organized, but like to like give us credit, like our pantry is very organized, like our kitchen is very organized. Like we have definitely maintained a lot of that stuff. So one of the things
better about throwing away, I think
getting rid of stuff. Let's talk about that next.
There's a lot of intake. Maybe every two things you get, you throw away one or some type of
I want to talk about that for sure. But one of the things that Jessica mentioned that I think is really important that we touch on is one, that having a why behind why you're being organized, like you said, saving money, eating healthier, like that I think will really drive and motivate people. But the other thing that you said that I think is really important and that so many people always have questions for me on is like, what is like, a lot of people like hear the word time blocking and they don't know what it means. Like they don't actually know what that means. So like, what is the difference between a to-do list and time blocking?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll talk about mine specifically. So I use the reminders app on my iPhone and I just list out everything that needs to be done. And I mean everything, because I'm not the type of person who's going to remember it, especially with mom brain. So I'll list out like cut my dog's nails. I will list out like schedule a podcast with this person. I will write every single thing that needs to get done on there. And what was happening with that was like I was basically in like drowning mode. I would see this to-do list and I'm a checker. Like I love checking things off the to-do list, but I felt like I was never done. I felt like I was never doing enough. And it lasted for years. And my husband was like, you never feel satisfied at the end of the day. No matter how much you work, no matter how much you get done, there's always something on your to-do list. And It was true. I didn't even realize it because again, I was like, well, I'm not a time blocker. I'm a to-do lister. Like this is my technique and it's working. I'm an efficient entrepreneur, but it was just like leaving me unsatisfied and unfulfilled and
Yeah.
just stressed out to be quite honest. So recently, like within about a year ago, made the switch to time blocking. And what time blocking is, especially if you have a calendar, is literally just taking the calendar, taking your time and putting it into chunks. So whether it is time blocking work, if you go to work from 8 to 5, you'll have 8 to 5 work. And maybe from 5 to 6, that's when you work out. And from 6 to 7, that's when you make dinner. And 7 to 8 is when you have downtime. You're putting every single thing in there. And when you do that, you can make sure you're making time for the important things. So I've really made it my effort to time block working out because that's the first thing that gets tossed out for me. Like if I have a busy day, I'm like, oh, no more time to work out. Get rid of that. So I'll time block that in. I time block one-on-one time with my husband to make sure like we're prioritizing ourselves. I'll put things like within my work, I will make sure that I'm spending time writing blog posts or scheduling podcasts or whatnot, so that it's not I sit down for work and I start to do tasks on my to-do list. Instead, I have everything planned out and I can look at my to-do list and plan it specifically for when I'm going to do it, so that no longer is it a big running list of when am I going to get this all done. Instead, it's all in my calendar for a specific time, for a specific length of time that allows me to just wake up, look at my calendar and see what needs to get done and know that I already have it planned in my day.
I think that alleviates for so many people. Like I know it did for me too, when I kind of switched the way that I do things, so much anxiety for people too. And like so much overwhelm and so much stress because it's like, okay, like if I just have the to-do list, it's like, when is that going to happen? And so like, if I know that on Thursday at 2:00, I'm going to clip my dog's nails. It's like, that feels so much better. Like, I'm just using the example that you use, but like, whatever it is, I'm like on, Friday at 9 a.m., I'm doing emails for an hour. Like it feels so much better than it being like, I know I have 130 emails in my inbox, but like, when am I going to get to it? And like, that feels really overwhelming. So I love that you just explained it that way, because I think that that will help a lot of people in the audience understand that like not only is it like a time hack thing, it's also going to make you feel mentally less overwhelmed, less stressed, less anxious about the quote unquote never ending to-do list. It's going to
be much more efficient.
Efficient, like totally.
American workforce demands are high, and this reminds me of Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week. He advocated really heavily for 2 or so email blocks in the day, and they work right when you get up, because what his point, and it's very true, he was making was, if you get up and you start getting in your emails, all of a sudden 2-3 hours go by, and like there's really not a lot of strategy or direction to do like the really important things that day. You can get really thrown off. And so he advocated for blocks. And I just think, like, I manage sellers for a living, and if they really time block like all their most important things versus waking up and kind of like letting the company drag them in different places, they're just a lot less efficient and they're a lot less successful, honestly, like in the long term.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Having the time blocks is for like what we are all been talking about for emails. I feel like is just like one of those things where it's like, then for the rest of the day, while you're doing other stuff, like you're actually doing the work, you're turning it off.
Well, yeah.
And like that way you're not on somebody else's time. Like, you're like, they are on your time. And like, if it's urgent, like what I always feel is like someone will call you or text you or whatever. It's like,
well, that's the other problem.
It doesn't have to get back to them right away.
I like that you said that it is your time. And I think that's so important, is like whether you're working or you're spending it with your family, you get to decide where you're putting your time. And just because there's emails in your inbox doesn't mean you have to stop what you're doing. One of the things that I love to talk about is like taking control of your digital life and organizing your digital routine, constantly posting on my stories, constantly interacting with my community. Have all of my notifications turned off. I do not allow them to bombard me. When I open my phone, I don't want to see that, because it is overwhelming. And if every single time I open my phone, there's notifications everywhere telling me, look here, look here, look here. then I don't feel as in control as if I
Yeah.
decide where I put my time.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's a
gosh,
very good point.
1,000%. I mean, there's like all this research out there, like I'm sure you've seen it, that like every time if somebody has their phone on loud with all the notifications on, every time the ding goes off for a text or an email or whatever, your cortisol goes up, your stress hormones go up. And so it's like, if we can start to manage that better, where it's like, yeah, like I'm looking at it when I choose to, we're going to alleviate so much, first of all, energy misuse, where it's like we're draining ourselves because we're constantly like trying to switch back and forth in our head from like this task to this task to this task. And it's like, we're also going to like preserve our energy, our own personal energy so much more. So I think that that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah. I live my life with do not disturb on.
Yes.
I do. A lot of people think my phone's off. But one last point on this is just like today's work environment is really different, because now everyone uses Slack and Teams and text messages each other. And so now it used to be an email with an action item that you could get to in a few hours. And now it's, I don't know if
there's urgency.
Slack,
there's more urgency.
There's messages coming all the time. There's urgency around everything. And I think it really is okay. Like you can leave a message unread.
Yeah.
And then get to it.
Favorite new feature. I love that you can like read a text message, look at it and be like, I'm going to put that on unread and I'm going to look at it later. Oh, it's such a good new iPhone update.
You can do it in Slack. You can do it in email. That's
as you should. Like I time block my Slack. I time block, like I don't answer text messages in between sessions, like all of the things we're talking about right now.
I remember a time in my life when springtime would hit and immediately I would be searching for a new trainer or Googling all of the 7-day juice cleanse, 14-day detoxes so that I could get myself in shape for summer. And what I didn't realize at this time was that all of that was a complete waste of my time, of my energy, of my resources. And I look back on that just wishing for those hours and all of that energy and brain power back. The decisions that I was making for my body were coming from a place of punishment rather than from a place of love. And it wasn't until I started meditating and I started doing the work, the real work on myself, that I recognized that I needed to nourish my body with both movement and food and mindset work if I ever wanted my body to love me back in a sustainable way. And that's why the WBK membership, that I release meditations where I deeply connect you with yourself, and blood sugar balancing recipes to nourish you on a cellular level, and low impact movement to support the delicate balance of your hormones, really gets you the results that you're looking for, where it starts to become a lifestyle. It starts to become who you are. I can tell you firsthand that both myself and my members, my private clients, all of us have seen the most incredible results from the WBK method. It's so different than your typical diet and a restrictive approach that we're taught from diet culture from a very early age. As a 33-year-old mom of 2, this is the leanest I've ever been, the most energy that I've ever had, and the best that I have ever felt in my freaking body. And it can be that way for you too. So right now, with the code Balancing Chaos, all one word, BALANCINGCHAOS, you can get 10% off your annual membership for the WBK method and get new weekly content, plus a library of hundreds of workouts, recipes, meditations, with a 7-day reset and a 30-day challenge, all to get you started. So use the code Balancing Chaos, again, all one word, to start your 7-day free trial and see, when you love your body back, how your body starts to love you.
Do you have a philosophy or like a standard that you live by when it comes to like accumulating things? Because like as we're actually gearing up to move ourselves, and as we do that, I've been working like I've cleaned out my office. I cleaned out the kids' rooms, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there is so much stuff to throw away. And so maybe what I said to myself at the beginning, I was like, this is going to be like an exercise for me in keeping things in my cart and like not purchasing things for like maybe 24 hours before like having these impulse buys and like wasting money on things that I'm like literally never going to use. But then it's also like you get gifted things and people give you things and like things just show up at your house. And so it's like, okay, how do we start to manage the intake of stuff better, and decide what to keep and like what to get rid of?
That's a lot of really good conversations to have. I feel like I could talk about everything that you said so in depth. But yeah, part of being organized, the biggest part of being organized is not having a lot of stuff. And people are like, I get messages like this all the time. I look at under your sink and you've got 5 bottles under there, but I've got like 50. Like, how do you organize that? Well, you don't need that much stuff. And that's America, right? Like just over consuming. Yeah. And you don't need that. And obviously you're going to open under your sink and you're going to feel overwhelmed because there's 50 choices. So first step is like getting rid of all of that clutter. And that's going to allow you to organize and stay organized so much better. So to do that, I first recommend always, like when you run out of a product, be intentional with the next product you buy. So we'll bring cleaning into this because I just love talking about cleaning. I've completely gone non-toxic. So we don't use any harsh chemicals in our home. I share all of my non-toxic products that I love and use every day. And what's cool about non-toxic products is the quality of them. They're made really, really well with really good ingredients that are safe for the family, but also the versatility of them, right? Like you don't need a glass cleaner and a multi-surface cleaner and a disinfectant and a degreaser and a stainless steel cleaner. You've got one household cleaner that does it all for you. So you're getting rid of 20 different bottles to have one bottle of cleaner. And now you're getting rid of 20 bottles that overwhelm you and making it a lot easier. So in turn, like making a conscious decision to buy something like this, that's a quality product, you're getting rid of the clutter, you're saving money, and you're wasting less, right? Like you're not constantly buying new bottles of things that you're like, oh, do we have more window cleaner? And instead getting that one bottle. Going back to like Amazon, which is immediately what I thought of because I order off of Amazon all the time. That is a good concept of like not just buying the next best thing, but instead adding it to your cart and making sure that it's something that you really want. Like think about how long you're going to use it for, or if you have a product that's similar to it, or different like things like that. If you actually just take a second to think, sometimes you'll be like, wait, we really don't need this.
Really helpful. Really helpful. What's your favorite non-toxic brand?
I love Young Living. We recently switched, probably a couple months ago, switched to Thieves. And what I really like about Young Living is that I no longer have to, especially as an influencer, recommend a million different brands, right? Like there's, like I said, there's different like toothpastes and household cleaners and essential oils and all of these different brands that I can recommend. And that kind of feels overwhelming when somebody's kind of going down that venture of becoming non-toxic or going non-toxic.
Yes.
Instead, I love Young Living because it's like, hey, here's their website. You can buy anything, everything from oils to soaps to cleaning products to anything that you might need. It's on this website, and they did the hard work for you. They don't use the harsh chemicals. They're completely non-toxic. They're a great brand. And instead just being able to be like, here's the one-stop shop, get rid of the overwhelm, subscribe and save, get it on there, and just not have to worry about it rather than listing all the other ones. I do have so many other non-toxic product recommendations, but it's just super easy to be like, here's Young Living, go check them out.
Is that a brand or a retailer? Are they all their own products, or are they selling other people's products that they vetted?
It's different brands underneath Young Living. So the cleaning products are all Thieves, which is that's my favorite cleaning line. But yeah, they do have some good products under there, but they're all different brands under there that are completely really great products. I just was looking at the back of the household cleaner, and it's really cool because you like read it, and you know, you keep your cleaners under the sink where your kids can get into. And I was looking at it, and it was like if ingested, drink lots of water. And I was like, that's not what you see like on Clorox. Like you definitely like you're using something that's safe enough that like if ingested, drink water. Like that's all the worry. So it just feels so nice because I have a 1.5-year-old. She's right now going in all of the cabinets. So having brands like that in there is really helpful.
Are there any areas of the home that maybe people don't realize have toxic chemicals? Like one of the big ones that I don't think a lot of people realize is dry cleaning. Like I don't think people realize how toxic dry cleaning, the cleaning process is. And then in turn, like really anything that touches your skin, right? So are there any, everyone knows about detergents, or I should say most detergents, like household cleaners.
It's funny that you say that because I feel like one of the things, especially in the community that I see that just breaks my heart is detergents, and it's baby detergents. It's Draft. It's literally, you know, that white bottle with pink on it and it says like Draft baby detergent. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. The fact that they're even able to sell to babies, to parents is just mind-boggling for me. Again, like that's why I like love Thieves. Like I can say, hey, use their laundry detergent, and not only like can you rest assured that your clothes are, you know, washed in something that's clean, which is really nice because your clothes are touching you all day long. You're constantly soaking in the chemicals that your clothes are covered in, which dry cleaning especially. Oh yeah. I haven't gotten anything dry cleaned in years, so I kind of even forgot about that. But so yeah, laundry detergent is definitely one. Cleaning products is a huge one. Cleaning products are chemicals, and people are constantly using them to clean things like the plates that you're eating and the like the countertop that you're washing down. So getting rid of those are huge ones. Also, like cleaning products are responsible for a lot of like symptoms, you know, like respiratory symptoms or eczema and dry skin. Like, have you ever washed your dishes with like a toxic soap and like your hands just feel so dry and like they're just awful? Like switching out your hand soaps. Some of the places, so all the soaps, lotions, all of that stuff is definitely like on the list to get switched. But a couple of places that people forget about are like candles and fragrances. Using essential oils is such a better option because it is a pure essential oil and not filled with like artificial fragrances and chemicals and parabens and all of that gross stuff.
And it's just combustion. Like it's
fragrance though, like it's not like perfume though. Like people don't realize how bad perfume is. Like perfume
I wouldn't have
is like such a toxin. Yeah. And there are a few brands that make non-toxic fragrance, but I'm glad that you brought that one up. I feel like this conversation, because I have clients who go through this because, you know, chemicals like and the use of chemicals not only it's like we think about cancer and stuff like that, but it also can cause hormonal imbalances, whether it's issues with your thyroid or estrogen dominance or like all of these different things. And so I think people can get immediately really overwhelmed by this conversation. And they're like, oh my God, I have to literally clean out every single drawer all at once and like have to look at the back of every single bottle. So one, I like that you gave that like Young Living recommendation because I didn't even know about that. I've never heard of that, but like a place where it almost sounds like there's like a place in New York. Wait, now I'm like blanking on the name of it, but like you could go in there and like, you know, all of their products are non-toxic. So like, I think that that's great. But
the Erewhon of household products.
Yeah. And when making the switch to non-toxic, like you said, it can be super overwhelming. I'm currently now 3 years into like starting to move towards the non-toxic approach. I'm just now like tackling like, you know, my hair products and my makeup products. Like I didn't make that switch. It should be important because your makeup is on your skin every day. But like that, it was just so overwhelming for me. Like you say, like switch makeup to non-toxic and you're like, okay, well, I gotta get a foundation and a blush and like all of these things that like I need to make sure that I like them and like I have to try different brands, and just that alone is overwhelming. So I like to like pick a place that's, you know, if you're at square one and everything in your home is toxic, do stuff that's simple, like getting rid of fragrances. Like you really don't have to replace that. So just stop using candles. Stop using like Glade plugins. Stop using like car air fresheners. Like just get rid of those. That's and even really good stuff.
Like the, you know, what like I don't want to like say any like names necessarily, but like the the counter, like beauty counter perfumes that you go like to Macy's or whatever, Saks to buy.
Perfumes, yeah. Air fresheners,
Yeah.
like all of those things that are just like additives, like you really don't need them.
Yeah.
That's a really good place to start. And then pick a place and just start getting, like, when you run out of your laundry detergent, not even when you run out, like if you're hearing this and you're like, wow, I never even thought about that, start making a list and start finding brands that you want to dive into. So whether it is Young Living or other non-toxic brands, I'm just going to throw it out there. I have a whole non-toxic highlight on my Instagram that talks about like everything in my home and what I use instead.
Amazing.
So that's a really good resource. You can also just Google like non-toxic air or non-toxic laundry detergent.
Yep.
You gotta be a little careful. The companies like to greenwash, but yeah, so have a list, because you don't want to like run out of laundry detergent and be like, okay, now I'm trying to find one. Like I need to know a non-toxic one that's safe for the baby and like freak out. So instead, like, you know, have a plan, possibly like start buying that. So when you are low on laundry detergent, order one so that you can try it out and use that and not feel so overwhelmed. Like when you run out of your
one thing
Windex,
at a time.
when you run out, just buy one, and hopefully that kind of takes the overwhelm out. But having a wish list is really helpful. Knowing and like trusting a brand like Young Living, like that's really helpful because you don't have to research every single time.
I think I know the answer to this, or I probably do. But another one that seemingly, as of late, had a lot of research point to it affecting like hormones, even testosterone in men, is BPAs and just like generally like toxins and plastics. I'm probably assuming that you don't use a lot of Ziploc bags, et cetera, in your fridge, and you've gone to mostly glassware. Is that an accurate assumption?
Yeah. I think people are intimidated, like Tupperware's cheap, glassware's a little bit pricier, but we invested in glassware probably 6 years ago, still using the same glassware. It's like forever. $20 on Amazon. They're so much better made. But yeah, so in the kitchen itself, like that's a really good first step, is to get rid of like Ziploc bags and containers like that and use glass. They also do make Ziploc bags. Stasher is a good brand that like their silicone bags, they close, they're the convenience of it. There's also things like, instead of plastic wrap, using beeswax wrap. So basically anything in your kitchen that you see a plastic option, there's usually an alternative. Plastic, like pantry containers, they have glass ones. So making that conscious decision as you start to go through, again, do one at a time. I love like having that be my like birthday present. Like I'll be like, Mom, I want new pantry organizers, or I want, you know, a new stasher bag, because those are things that like aren't really fun to buy, but like if someone's going to buy it for you, it's something that needs to get changed in the home. And as an adult, that's what you want. You want vacuums and stasher bags
for your birthday.
We got like a commercial roll of plastic wrap out there that we need to ditch.
Probably. Yeah. That's like, actually,
we don't use it a lot.
We have like we don't, but like all of our stuff is glass. Our kids drink out of stainless steel, but we do have plastic wrap. So I like the beeswax. Yeah. That's a great option.
You know, the other one too.
And it's a one-time investment. Like you said, like you buy the glassware, you buy the beeswax, and you're going to have it for years and years, rather than like every month going and getting Ziploc bags. Yeah.
Another one is kids' toys, just quickly.
Toxins.
Toxins.
Oh my gosh.
With the glues, and there's a company called Love Every that we use. It's pretty great.
Kids' toys.
All Love Every. Yes, we love Love Every. Everything baby related. Unfortunately, like it as a new mom, it sucks so much that like we have to think about this and even like consider that. But like in baby stuff, whether it's bottles or toys, pacifiers, their clothing, anything you put them in, they are not only filled with like plastics and chemicals, but they also are treated with it. So one switch that we just made in our house, or not switch, but we just bought a new car seat, and finding car seats that were free of flame retardants, which are really bad for your body. There's about like 9 on the market that I have listed out on my blog, because I was like, the fact that there's only 9 here, like I'm going to show you this information. I want you guys to buy one of these 9, because car seats should not have flame retardants in them. Neither should their cribs or their mattresses. All of it, just, it's so crazy to me that like companies can even put this crap in there. But it's also crazy that like 4 years ago, I had no idea. I had no idea that there was toxic stuff in. I didn't think it would be able to be sold to parents if there was toxic chemicals in there, but it most definitely is.
I had no idea either before coming a mom. Totally.
Europe regulates.
I mean, but when I remember I was working when we were designing West's room, I was like working with my mom. That's our firstborn. When we were working on his nursery, and one of my girlfriends who was pregnant at the same time reached out and she's like, "Are you making sure that you're getting a non-toxic mattress?" And I'm like, "What? Like mattresses are toxic? What?" So yeah, I think that like just highlighting
car seat.
Yeah.
Like we didn't research that.
No, we didn't. We didn't. I think that like just highlighting that though for people, it's just like, it's not in a way that like is, you know, again, like designed to be like overwhelming or like, and you're not a bad parent for not knowing it. It's just like, okay, the more you know, and the more you know, the better you can do. And so, like he just said, like, we had no idea about the car seats. Like we'll probably have a conversation about that, like right after this podcast.
And like, you'll hear like that. My mom is like, well, you know, you were in a regular car seat. Like we turned out fine. Like, it's like, that's what I try to say and like tell parents, like, it's not like something crazy is going to happen, but being able to consciously, like, the more you know, the more you do. If you do know that there's chemicals, like, you know, buying that car seat that's free of flame retardants is supporting a company that's making a conscious decision to make something better, which is how we get change. That's how we get the other car seat brands on board. That's how we get the other baby companies on board, so that we can go to the store and buy lotion for our baby that doesn't have artificial fragrances and parabens and phthalates in it. Like, we have to be buying the good brands to get the change to happen, which is so unfortunate.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this up by talking about the fact that you, like so many of the moms that we have on this podcast, are a mother and an entrepreneur at the same time. And both of those things are like children, and both of those things take a lot of your attention. So how do you, and you also have a husband who deserves and needs your attention. So how do you maintain balance with all of that? I mean, I know the time blocking for sure, but like what, like, do you feel like, you know, some weeks one is going to be more and then the other is going to be more, like, cause it's never going to be perfect. And like, how do you deal with the guilt that comes up? Because I know that that is a thing that, you know, since I started my own business, it's like there will always be the days where like my son is outside my door screaming like, I want to come back. And it's like, okay, you know, I like, you want to be able to do both because they both fill your cup. So.
Absolutely. I think in all honesty, any mom that's out there, any working mom will say that, like, no matter how much balance there is, it never ever feels like enough. Like the days you spend working more, you're gonna like
miss them,
cry, and because you miss your baby. And the days that you're with your baby, you're gonna be like, okay, like I need to make sure that I get this done. And like, it's a really, really hard balancing act. And I try, like I said, like you mentioned, time blocking to the best of my ability so that I can make sure that like my priorities for work get done first thing, so that anything else that wasn't done can wait for the next day and I can truly be there. So like I schedule my days where I work in the morning, and then when my daughter wakes up from her nap, I do my best to be there 100%. And not 50%. I think that's what's really important, is when I am with her, but like responding to messages on Instagram or posting stories or doing something like multitasking, I'll end that session or being with her and still feel unfulfilled. So I think like the biggest thing is like when I do schedule the time to be with her, I'm 100% with her, like really investing and filling up both of our cups so that I can feel better. But it is like one of the hardest things I've ever had to navigate. I nannied for 7 years prior, and it was a totally different situation. Like I could ignore the kids and be totally fine. And by ignore the kids, I love them to death. But like they would be playing with friends and I would be working, and I would never feel like, oh, I didn't get enough one-on-one time with them. But like when it's your
Your
own flesh
own
and
kid.
blood, you're like, I could spend all day with her and still be like, oh man, I should have been with her more. Like,
Yeah,
there's just like, you never feel completely fulfilled or completely successful at being a mom. There's always that doubt and worry. But yeah, doing the time blocking and making sure that you are giving 100% is like my best recommendation for handling it.
I love that. Like pure presence. And like, yeah, like so many of us run our businesses on social media. It's a big part of my business too. I'm actually taking a nice little break right now. But I think that, you know, we have to be able to turn it off and have the presence with the people that mean the most to us, because that's where the true joy in life comes from. And that's how you do get your cup filled. So I couldn't be in agreement with that more.
And one of the simplest recommendations we received from like probably over half of our guests is just to like really make your life a bit easier and leave your phone
phone in another room. Yeah.
Because it's just too addictive. It really is. I mean, they're designed to be highly addictive, right?
Totally.
You gravitate towards them. It's sad, but it's true. So like, I think that's an easy one. If you want to be fully present, just like
put your phone away.
Don't bring it into the restaurant. Like, don't bring it into your bedroom.
I was talking to someone yesterday. I was like, and they were like, like I feel like my nervous system is never settling down because every time I like have lunch or I like leave the office or I go into the bathroom, I'm bringing my phone. I'm like, you're going into the bathroom, like scrolling in the bathroom.
I mean, everyone does that. Come on, everyone can pretend like they don't do that, but not everyone. A lot of people do that.
Yeah,
I feel like too, like you think about, especially like we're talking on the entrepreneur side of things, but even for moms listening, even for dads listening, like if you're constantly attached to your phone, your little one is seeing that too. And like people ask me all the time, like we don't do any type of technology with Adeline yet, and she'll see if we have our phone in the room, she goes and she picks it up and she's walking around and she's lighting up the buttons because that's what she sees us doing. So really, like as a parent, like when you're present, be present. And when you're not, like just try to get on higher ground. Like go to the table if you have to be doing something with your phone. Like show your children that there is a separation between work and play, and like be present when you're playing. I think it's important that they see that. And like I do my best. I'm a type A personality. I'm a go getter. I want to always be working. So for me, it's really difficult to just sit there and like watch my daughter play. Like I'm thinking of like all the other things I can be doing.
That's most moms, I think, but
important.
It's going to be uncomfortable. It's for sure going to be uncomfortable, but it's also a necessary thing to do. We really appreciate your time, Jessica, and you being on here with us. Thank you for all of the amazing wisdom and tips and like even like tangible, really simple takeaways that everyone can go forth with after this episode and like clean out their homes and organize their calendars. We're super grateful for it. So tell all of the listeners where they can find you, and we will link out whatever we need to in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on this. I'm super excited to get in touch with your listeners. If your listeners want to get in touch with me specifically, the best place to find me is on Instagram. Send me a message. I respond to all of my direct messages, so I'd be happy to connect with you there. You can also find me on TikTok and YouTube and Pinterest at Jessica Haizman, or you can find all of like my resources, courses, PDFs, printables at jessicahaizman.com.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you.
The podcast is just Jessica Haizman Podcast, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll link that one too. Awesome. Yeah. Easy when it's all the same. Same name.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Got my mind jogging about what I can replace in my house and how to be more efficient. So this is really helpful. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me.
We really hope that you enjoyed that episode. You can follow me on Instagram at Wellness by Kelly. And if you're new around here, you can sign up for the WBK 7-day free trial, where you can get access to all of my low impact workouts, blood sugar balancing, plant-based recipes, and guided meditations, all available on wellnessbykelly.com and on the WBK app.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also connect with us on social media at Wellness by Kelly. Drop us a DM for who you want to hear from.